this lesson, you'll learn a fun melody that's a great fingerpicking practice. Many of you have requested a fingerpicking tutorial that moves you out of the first fret position, perhaps a bit out of your comfort zone. This melody is great for all levels, and it can be played with high or low G tuning, as we're only using strings 1, 2, and 3, or strings A, E, and C. So let's get started with our demo, and then we'll move into our lesson. If you'd like to download this melody or any of my tab arrangements or song sheets, you'll find them all on my Patreon page, both as individual PDFs and as songbooks. The link is down below in the video description. If you're enjoying my lessons, I would love to hear from you in the comments. And please give this video a thumbs up. It really does help to support my channel. I've named this melody Dance Around the 5th Fret, as it makes you want to dance, and most of the chords are right on or around the 5th fret. Now let's move into our tutorial, and we'll walk through how to play the entire melody. This arrangement is in 6/8 time, so the rhythm of each measure is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, as each measure is made up of 6 eighth notes. Now the tempo is 90 beats per minute, so if you set your metronome at 90, you'll have 1 beat for every dotted quarter note, or the equivalent of every 3 eighth notes. This means that your metronome will fall on beats 1 and 4 of each measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This arrangement is played on strings 3, 2, and 1, so we're not using our 4th string. Now for my picking hand, I like to use my thumb on the 3rd string, index finger on the 2nd string, and middle finger on the 1st string. Now this isn't a rule, it's just my personal preference, so feel free to use whichever fingers on your picking hand are most comfortable to you. This melody is made up of 3 different patterns that repeat on different chords. Now the first pattern is in measures 1 and 2. So in measure 1, we're picking strings 3, 2, 1, and then 1, 2, 3, and then in measure 2, we're picking strings 3, 2, 1, and then the 1st string once more. Now the chord that we're starting on in measure 1 is a B flat chord. This is a partial chord because we're not playing the 4th string. If we were to play the 4th string on this chord, it would look like this. Now fortunately, playing on just 3 strings makes the chord shape much easier. So this chord shape is the same as our standard G chord shape, moved up to the 5th fret. So here we have our index and middle fingers on the 5th fret of strings 3 and 1, and our ring finger on the 6th fret of the 2nd string. In measures 3 and 4, we have our second picking pattern. this pattern, we're going to pick strings 1, 3, 2, 3 times, and then to finish this pattern, we'll pick the first string one more time. As we move from measure 2 into measure 3, we'll maintain our B-flat chord shape, and we're going to place down our pinky on the 8th fret of the first string. Now we will be lifting this pinky up and placing it back down again. So to start measure 3 with our pinky down, we're going to pick strings 1, 3, 2, and then we'll lift our pinky up to play strings 1, 3, 2 again. Then for measure 4, we'll place our pinky back down. And for the last note in measure 4, we'll lift our pinky back up again. Now moving into measure 5, we're going to an F7 chord shape. Now if this chord was played across all 4 strings, we would play it as a bar chord. But it's much easier played on only 3 strings. So here we have our index and middle fingers on the 5th fret of strings 3 and 2, and our ring finger on the 6th fret of the first string. So in measures 5 and 6, we're going back to our first picking pattern. Then in measures 7 and 8, we're going to our second picking pattern, and here we'll place our pinky back down on the 8th fret of the first string. In measure 9, we're going back to our B-flat chord shape, and measures 9, 10, 11, and 12 are played the same way as measures 1 through 4. In measure 13, we're going to our F7 chord shape, and measures 13 and 14 are played the same way as measures 5 and 6. Now in measures 15 and 16, we're going to complete the first half of this melody with our third picking pattern. So to play measure 15, we're going to pick the first string 5 times, starting with our ring finger on the 6th fret, then placing our pinky on the 8th fret, then we'll lift up our pinky to play the 6th fret 2 more times, then we'll place down our middle finger on the 5th fret, lifting up our ring finger, then we move to the 2nd string, 8th fret with our pinky, and in measure 16, we'll place down our middle finger on the 6th fret of the 2nd string. For the second half of this melody, we'll repeat our first picking pattern, the same as what we used in measures 1 and 2, until we get to the final 2 measures of the arrangement, which are played the same way as measures 15 and 16. So in measures 17 and 18, we're using a partial E flat chord. Now this chord starts on the 6th fret, so we have our index finger across the 6th fret of strings 1 and 2, and our middle finger on the 7th fret of the 3rd string. Now here we'll play pattern 1, then in measures 19 and 20, we're going back to the same B flat chord that we used in measures 1 and 2. In measures 21 and 22, we're going to an F chord that starts on the 3rd fret. So here we have our index finger on the 3rd fret of the first string, and our middle and ring fingers on the 5th fret of strings 3 and 2. Then in measures 23 and 24, we're going back to our B-flat chord shape. here we're going to place down our pinky on the very last note in measure 24 to play the 8th fret. Now measures 25 through 30 are played the same way as measures 17 through 22. So in measure 25, we'll go back to our E flat chord, then in measure 27, back to B flat, in measure 29, we'll go to our F chord, and measures 31 and 32 are played the same way as measures 15 and 16. For more of my fingerpicking tutorials, see this playlist here. Have fun dancing around the 5th fret, and thanks for watching.